on that same line of thought, do you ever worry about like cancel culture coming for you for something that you've said? Maybe it's on the show or like just because you have been in like the public eye through radio and through your podcast now.
I think so. Like, I think, I've made mistakes in my life, but I'm also like completely willing to talk about them. So
Mm-hmm.
if anybody ever said, "Hey, like, you remember when this happened?" I'll be like, "Yeah, and I'll tell you why I did that is because I wasn't like valuing my mental health right then, and I've taken steps to try and make that better." That's why, like, I think a number of times my family has like told me I should run for city council or something like that. I'm like, no. I first of all, I'm not qualified for that kind of position. I feel like there's a lot of people that are more qualified to do that. But on the second hand, I always think that yeah, I don't want people like digging through my life like that. And it is kind of sad because you think about all the other people that are qualified to do that, that have that same feeling that they think, oh, I just don't want people digging through my life, that like really could help. They could make a good change out there, because we're not human if we don't make mistakes. It's the most classic way to learn, isn't it? By failure.
And you
It's
learn
not
the
the
most that way.
Yeah, it's not the most ideal way to learn, but
It's very beneficial.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I mean, I've gotten into trouble. You know what I mean? Like you mentioned getting helped out by a cop. I've been helped out by a cop. I've also been, you know, uh, gosh, I've had really bad luck too. I remember visiting some friends in college back in the day, and they were like robo tripping, which is Robitussin. It's just stupid
Oh
cough.
wow.
Yeah, they were tripping off that, and like here I come with a like safe driver, like a designated driver, get dropped off at the dorms, and I go and visit these guys that have been robo tripping, which is like far worse for you. And I'm in the room with them for like 5 minutes. And of course, like, I'm 19 or something and I've had a few beers. And we all blow into the breathalyzer because we get a noise complaint.
Oh,
And all the guys that had Robitussin in their system, didn't register anything. But of course, I get the minor in possession because I had just
oh,
showed up with a
that's
designated
crappy.
driver. And I was just about to leave that room too. I was just going to say hi to an old friend, you know. That's that kind of stuff. It's like, oh yeah, that's probably going to come up later. The whole like visiting family in Texas and having a little bit of a substance that may be legal in California now, but is not legal in Texas, allegedly. I might have
Allegedly.
had some of that in my vehicle, and get pulled over in Texas, and they find the pipe, but they don't find the substance. And I'm pretty sure now, looking back on it, that the state trooper there probably did find the substance and just decided to let me go. Same similar situation that you went through, where hey, maybe we could use a little bit of the benefit of the doubt so we could go on to, I'm headed to college, I'm headed to enter into the workforce, I'm headed to be a tax paying good citizen. You know what I mean? They could have lost out on that if they decided to, you know? So there's definitely both sides to that coin. We definitely want to like improve the lives of those around us so that they can get to that point to where they're stimulating our economy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy how I mean, dumb luck. Like one thing changes and it's all different.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is,
Yeah. It's
that's,
just overnight. You could
uh,
be like, oh, wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
I had, when I was going to Oregon State, a bunch of us got shit faced and we went to the football game, which is like what you do up there. You know, you get wasted and then you go watch football. And we're out there and we're having a good time. And it's me and two buddies. And we're up on the bleachers and we're standing up because we're cheering for something. And this guy in front of us who's like a military vet, roughly our age, maybe a couple years older than us, we're talking with them. They're talking with us. One of them pulls out a flask of like Fireball or something, and we're passing it around, just having a good time, you know. And we passed it back to him, and like 30 seconds later, a trooper comes down the steps, and he's like,
Oh,
"All right, where is it?" And we're all playing dumb because, you know.
yeah.
And he's looking around, looking at each of us, and I'm just looking at the game, like I'm just I'm swaying because I'm trying to focus on just standing. Like it's looking rough for me, and I'm like, this is how I go down right here.
Yeah, yeah, this
And
this is
so
it.
I'm just focusing on not falling over. I've got a buddy to my left. Shout out to Tristan. He is he is like I don't remember if he was like looking at the cop or not looking at the cop, but the cop looks at him and is like, you, and you come with me. And he takes four of them, including Tristan, and I think they all got tagged
Mm-hmm.
from MIP, minor in
Yeah.
possession. And I think about that and it's like, that was just dumb luck that I didn't get take. I would have blown over easily. And it's crazy how it's just that, like, that's just luck.
Yeah.
Like, there's no rhyme or reason why he got picked and I didn't, or those guys got picked or those guys just happened to have a flask and were friendly and we were having a good time. Like one thing like that and everything changes. I mean,
Maybe. Yeah.
imagine if you just went out and were partying and you got picked up by the police and they weren't nice and you had a little bit of weed on you or something and you get locked up. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like that one moment changes your whole direction.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like in humanity we're dealt with like, okay, how much of where we've gotten is based on luck and how much of it is based on hard work and determination, you know? And I feel like, I don't know, for some people it's mostly luck, and I feel like for others it's mostly hard work and determination, you know, that can fall anywhere on the spectrum of 1 to 100, but boy, maybe that's like why we're so critical of celebrities, because we have that in the back of our mind, like how much luck did they get to get there? You know, for every really talented celebrity there's like 100 like equally talented, if not more talented, people that could do the exact same thing. They just didn't get the same amount of luck.
Yeah, especially in music, that there are just, I mean, how many thousands of great artists are out there that are just kind of obscure because they didn't blow up or maybe they didn't get the traction online and they just have like their niche following, which there's nothing wrong with that, but they could have been like
Mm-hmm.
a Miley Cyrus or a take your pick of some huge like a Michael Jackson, like some superstar, but they just didn't get that one moment where there were a ton of eyes and they took it and ran with it.
Yeah, and a lot of it comes down to like perspective too, you know. I read this book, what is it, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck? I don't know if you've
Is
heard of
that a
that.
good book? No, I've heard of it. I haven't read it.
Yeah, yeah. There's this really good point. I forget what the guy's name is, who wrote it, but it doesn't matter. People can Google it. Like we can Google everything. But yeah, there's this guy who's like, he's talking about a couple of rock stars, and I believe it was like the drummer of Megadeth or something used to be, um, oh, I'm totally missing it now. But okay, so that he takes two rock stars. One of them only gives a shit about competing and having better record sales than the other one. And then, and then there's Pete Best, the former drummer of the Beatles, who, okay, yeah, he may have lost out on being in the Beatles, but he also lived a really happy life and he surrounded himself with his family. And, if you look at the guy and you talk to the guy, you seem like, oh, wow, that guy's led a more fulfilling life. Oh, yeah, it's Dave Mustaine from Megadeth. And Dave Mustaine from Megadeth is like, oh, it's just completely competing with the guys from Metallica for his entire career and always never feels like he's like done anything. So you compare Dave Mustaine from Megadeth, who's like sold millions and millions of albums, to Pete Best from the Beatles, who hasn't done anything, but which one is happier? And it's Pete Best, who hasn't sold the millions of albums, because it's the perspective of how you look at your life, right? So, and that's in that book, and there's a lot of really solid points in that book, but that's kind of like, wow, so even if we did get really successful, were we just looking at it to compete with others the whole time? And is that really what we wanted? Or, are we doing these podcasts like Humboldt Last Week or Growing Pains? Are we kind of just doing those to enrich ourselves? And does it matter how many people listened last week? Does it matter? Certainly for my advertisers, it matters. But I mean, I feel like, I feel like we shouldn't be tying ourselves to those view counts so much. And instead we should say, oh, am I better for having done that episode? you know, or if I'm not better for having done that episode, how can I do the next one so that I will have done an episode next time that I felt better from? You know, being able to say that you're doing these creative things for yourself instead of for the view counts or the listen counts, I think that's huge. And the longevity of that is huge. Like, look at Joe Rogan. He was doing, I mean, whatever he's getting in trouble today. And I don't really necessarily listen to him too much today because I don't know. It was coming a lot of inflammatory stuff, you know, there's a lot of this us versus them stuff going on with him. And that's fine. I know that people still like that, um, but he got so famous and he has so many listeners. He doesn't need me. You know what I mean? He doesn't need me, but he still has that many listeners, but he had years and years and years where he didn't have listeners, you know, but he just kept doing it. He just kept plugging away, you know? And if the success happens, that's awesome. But I mean, if it doesn't, I think Joe Rogan, guy like that, seems like he'd go back and say, well, did I stay in shape? And did I, you know, talk to some interesting people? And, you know, and he'd probably say yes, and he'd probably be pretty happy, I think.
I think that's why being passionate is so important, because if you don't have a passion for what you're doing, the first opportunity to get out or to do something else or anything, you're going to jump at it because you're not passionate about what you do. Like if I was just doing this for money or you were just creating music for money, as soon as the money dries up, you're not going to do it anymore because why? I was only
Mm-hmm.
doing it for money, and if the money's gone, why do I still need to do this? You
Mm-hmm.
know, I think that plays, like you said, into the longevity of it. Is you have to figure out why you want to do it. And if that reason is to better yourself, well, then you're going to win every time.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be more motivated to work harder if it's good or if it's bad, because you're going to want to make it better either
Mm-hmm.
way. And that's going to keep feeding that cycle of, okay, I gotta improve this part. I gotta improve. Like, I feel like that with this, like, trying to build up the studio, it started out, okay, I gotta get more mics. I gotta get better lights. Like, and
Yeah.
that's just external things. In conversation wise, it's like, oh man, I should have said this and I didn't say that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or I should have prodded them more on this line of thinking because I think I could have got something deeper out of them that would have, you know, better encompassed their idea. Or I should have said this way because I didn't really get that point across and I kind of fucked it up and
Mm-hmm.
it didn't make sense. Like, being critical of what you do is good because it motivates you to do better, I
Mm-hmm.
think. And
Yeah.
it's just passion. You just have to be passionate about it.
Be passionate, have fun, and like don't forget where you came from either.
Yes.
You know, I feel like that's a huge thing too. I'm wearing this shirt right now. It's my Foo Fighters shirt, and it's a dedication to one of their first ever shows at the Jambalaya in Arcata. And they put out this shirt recently, you know, throughout the pandemic, taking sales from it and then donating it to small venues, hoping that they could stay open.
Oh, that's cool.
So, I mean, band like Foo Fighters, Rock and Roll Hall of Famers, were doing a show in Arcata off the
I didn't even
plaza
know they
there.
played there.
Oh yeah, back in the 90s, man. And there's a lot of people that'll be like, "Oh man, you got to find somebody who saw that show." I bet you could do a whole podcast about somebody that was at that old Foo Fighters show.
Yeah.
Um,
God, that must have been incredible to see
yeah,
that.
yeah, I wish
That
I was
must have
here
just
then, but I was just like, "Wow, it's nice that like a band like Foo Fighters cares about stuff like that."